Hi, you're looking at the calendar from iOS 6 on the left and from iOS 7 on the right. The iOS 7 calendar is one of the biggest things I've been having trouble with adjusting to in the new operating system, and I really think it's a step back for usability, and I want to show you why. In the iOS 7 calendar, it's a two-part view that shows the month at the top and the events on the selected day at the bottom. If you take your finger and you move it across the calendar without picking it up, you can just drag across the days. You can see the events on the days that you're hovering over very quickly. On the calendar in iOS 7, if you do that, you uselessly pan the month thing up and down. The other problem that I have with the iOS 7 calendar is that if you're looking at a day in iOS 6, you see all the events listed. It's scrollable. You're going to see everything at once. These phones are synced to the same account, so I'm going to touch the 21st, and on the iOS 6 calendar, I immediately saw the two events that I created. On the iOS 7 calendar, I see neither of them. I have to scroll up and down to see both of them, and it's not possible for me to see both events at the same time. The calendar in iOS 7 forces you to use the day view that was an option in iOS 6, but not the mandatory view that was forced upon you. This iOS 7 uses a hybridized version of the month and the day view when you touch one of the days, allowing you to scroll between weeks. When you're in this view, you can't see if there's events on any of the days. They all show up the same. You have to go back to the main screen to see if there's events by these little gray dots, which are less visible than the ones on the iOS 6 app. Scrolling between months is, to me, difficult because it doesn't land on particular months, and it's easy to land somewhere in the middle where it just takes a while to figure out where you are. Whereas on the iOS 6 calendar, you can easily flip between months. You're always going to show a whole month in the view with the month name clearly at the top. That isn't what happens in iOS 7, and I find it rather confusing. I'm not sure if it would be any better on the iPhone 5 with a bigger screen. I've kept the 5 on iOS 6 for now. But I can't imagine that it is any radical bit different than it is working on my iPhone 4S. One thing that I do like is that you can easily jump a large span of time. If you want to go back a long way or forward a long way in iOS 7, it's easier to do it than it is on 6 with the repeated touching of the forward and back arrows. One thing that I really have taken to disliking, though, is that, in the iOS 6 calendar, a feature that I use a whole bunch is if you press and hold on a day, you get an all-day event for that day. And in the new calendar, if you press and hold on a day, nothing happens at all. You have to click the day, do the plus sign, and change it to all day. I think that the iOS 6 calendar is a lot more usable and a lot more useful than the iOS 7, particularly in regards to being able to view events. To me, this is pretty ridiculous that when you click on the day, you can't see all the events at once unless you go into this search thing up here, which lists all the events chronologically, very much like the list view in iOS 6, but it doesn't give you the same ability to just fly over these at a glance like you can in the iOS 6 calendar. And I really think that that's a detrimental change. And also, you can't manage to get the entire month in view at any time on the 4S size device. The day tiles are so needlessly large that they don't fit all the weeks on the screen at once. So the last week at the bottom on the 4S device, you can't see if there's any events on the days in that week without scrolling.